USCHO.com.
Welcome to the USCHO Frozen Four live podcast for Thursday. We're live at Harpoon Harry's Crab House in Tampa, just a short walk from Amalie Arena. Their motto, it's not just a restaurant, it's an adventure. Harpoon Harry's serving great seafood, sushi, and steak. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly and Derek Schooley. And gentlemen, I know we're pretty excited about today's games.
It's an adventure. That's what we're on right now. We got BU's party here. We got Michigan's party in Harpoon Harry's. This is exciting. This is one of the, I think we talked about it yesterday, 1, 2, 3, and 5. It hasn't happened in the era of a 16-team tournament. You walk around, you feel the energy right now. You walk through the Frozen Fest, and they're setting up, and with sold-out crowds. We're talking about $600 on StubHub yesterday. Let's go. Let's have this. We got some great guests. I'll let Jimmy recap yesterday, but it's been a pretty exciting time so far in Tampa. We've barely been here. I've barely been here 24 hours.
Yeah, this is, you wait and wait and wait and wait. Think about the fact that it's almost 10 days between the time you play your regional final and the time you actually get a chance to step on the ice and play in a national semifinal. These teams are just anxious. You could tell they just want to get on the ice. I say that I thought all 4 teams were a little bit laid back yesterday, which is good. I don't think that being anxious, about getting on the ice is the best approach. You've gone through these tournament schools. Like, the last thing you want is, guys with their helmets on 2 hours before the game. But you know that you have 4 teams here, really capable, really excited to play. And like you said, I hope the hockey is unbelievable. It should be. You really have your best. I think tonight is the night that we'll see if we have our best, where maybe half of the best are better than the other half. And I mean Big Ten, they're 2 teams. Everybody knows that those are the teams that have high expectations here. Michigan, Minnesota will get into gambling lines later, and they're heavy favorites in both of these games tonight. But you have 2 teams that are also ready for upsets. I think that BU certainly thinks that they could pull off another one of these 1997 sometimes the best team doesn't win upsets. And that's, I think, what Jay Pandolfo was probably talking about. He was not on that 97 team, but I know he's pretty familiar with a lot of the players on it. So I think we got a great day of games together, and we have a great show today as well.
I really think that you talked about not getting too hyped up. You're not going to win a game, in this case, on Wednesday. You're not going to win a game on Thursday. It's what you've done leading up to it. Yesterday was about feeling good, getting a little mojo going. I saw Michigan walking over for their pregame skate. I think that sometimes people put too much. Some of the best weekends teams have had are when they've had terrible practices. So I think that you really have to just live in the moment. And I don't think there's any upsets here. I mean, you're talking 1, 2, 3, and 5. If 3 and 5 win, is that really an upset? No. If it was 16, then it's an upset. But these are just 5 of the top 5. These are just 4 really good teams that are going to have 2 really good games.
The interesting thing in all of this is that if you don't have a Big Ten winner of the national championship this year, or even if only one of the 2 Big Ten teams makes it, it starts to put a little bit of a damper on this narrative that's been running around this whole thing about the Big Ten entering an era of predominance and maybe being head and shoulders above all the rest of college hockey. And I know that's a concern that is kind of buzzing on the lips of a lot of people around this.
I arrived down here without even that really going through my mind.
Nope.
But seen a lot of coaches in the first 48 hours that I've been on the ground here, and have heard a lot of talk, and there's some concerns. I think what's most interesting is I think Wisconsin hiring Mike Hastings and paying him $700,000 in salary to start, I think concerns a lot of programs out there that that think that they are powerful, and think that they have a lot of power in this game, and they say, well, we could never do that. Like,
and they don't charter.
Right? They don't, But I get it. There's some little differences. But I still think that this is a sport of 60 teams. And it's a sport where pucks pop into the net for all the right reasons and all the wrong reasons. And I still don't know that you can just put a blanket on this whole thing and say, we have the Big Ten and then we have everybody else. I think that there still is a level of parity that's critical.
That will shut down the talk, because it was the talk.
It was a big talk.
I got in at noon yesterday. We have the show at 3, and we talked about that. Then you go out and you talk to coaches. You go and you talk about that and talk about that. And I mean, it's been the buzz of since you've been down here that the Big Ten is like these 7 teams are still superior to everybody else. There's still going to be somebody who's last place. It's like when the NCHC was formed. There had to be somebody that finishes in last place.
8 powers. That was 8 college hockey powers that all got together.
And then, but what happened to those teams that finished last place? They took a big step back because they were used to winning a Miami. Oh, somebody's really excited. They just broke something. You had the Miami that was run roughshod over the CCHA, almost wins the national championship, and now they can't get out of their own way at the bottom. And Chris Bergeron's a heck of a coach. And he does great things, but they can't get out of that cellar.
And look how competitive they would be in the CCHA, for example.
Correct. So my point is, there's still these 7 teams. There's still going to be somebody that finishes in 7th.
The other thing that Jim alluded to that it is a concern, it's not just hiring Mike Hastings, which, you can't fault the guy for taking that position. It's a step up, kind of the pinnacle of his career as he gets into his late 50s and maybe his last stop as a head coach. But I'm also concerned about what happens to the Mavericks program, not because of Hastings leaving, but also his top assistant, Todd Knott, leaving, and then several top players going into the portal. That's leaving a little bit of an empty cupboard for somebody to take over.
Yeah, talking with one coach last night, he said take the NCAA tournament line chart and cross out the players that aren't there. You have 11 players that will not be on that roster next year, starting in the lineup next year because of the fact that either they're transferring or they're choosing not to come back, maybe signing pro contracts. I mean, there's so much change that is going to happen to that program. Then add on the fact that you need a new head coach, you need a new associate head coach or assistant coach. There's probably other parts. I'm sure hockey ops usually gets pillaged at some point in that, and it's going to be difficult. And this is a team that last year was 12 minutes away from a national championship, their first national title. I mean that's difficult to stomach, I'm sure, for fans in Mankato who have watched this team get built up over the last, let's say, 10 years.
It also shows the desperation of Wisconsin a little bit.
Of course it does.
Because Mike was involved in the Michigan State job. He was involved in the BU job. He was involved in all these jobs. So now they really needed to step up. And they went out and they got what's perceived one of the top coaches and paying him like a top coach. So it shows the unhappiness and desperation of not being left behind. That a proud Wisconsin team that is just a couple years away from making the tournament a couple years ago, the COVID year.
But you know what? You've got the same situation in that league that we just talked about in the NCHC. Somebody is going to be left behind. Somebody's going to have to be at the bottom. The coaches' poll was wrong on that, as they had Penn State there. But who in that conference is not going to have the budget to be able to compete? Is it Ohio State that's going to have difficulty keeping up with the others? Is it Notre Dame? Maybe not with the money they have, but somebody is going to have to drop in that area. Michigan State is on the rise. All these teams trying to get better. They all can't be in first place.
It's the most cruel part of sports is that somebody has to finish last, and you're going to have 7 proud programs, 7 excited programs, 7 programs that are putting a ton of money into their men's college hockey teams. And somebody's still going to finish last, and somebody's still going to miss the NCAA tournament, and maybe they do 2 years in a row. Maybe they do it 3 years in a row. I mean, the ideal scenario would be that you have somebody that bottom starts to rotate, because there is maybe so many resources. There's so much parity through those resources that you'll have, a team that might finish fourth one year, seventh the next year, third, then sixth. That it rotates a little bit. You don't have the perennial cellar dwellers, as they would say.
What does it do to the leagues that are right behind there, the NCHC and Hockey East, which I would say have kind of gotten a step behind the Big Ten, at least this season? What does that do? Let's take a look at Hockey East. What does that do to a Merrimack or a Vermont or a Maine when you have kind of this arms race going on around college hockey? Hockey East got just 2 teams in the tournament this year. Middle of the season, it looked like there might be 5 or 6, but they're going to have to look to compete. You probably don't have too many programs in Hockey East that can throw around that kind of money and that kind of budget.
You may not, but I'm not sure you have to. I'm not sure you have to match programs dollar for dollar. You need to match programs coach for coach and make sure you have the best coaching talent in your league possible. You want to make sure that you're finding ways to attract the best players. How do you do that? That's great recruiting. That's great assistant coaches. That's good scouting. There's enough players. We say it all the time. There's enough players out there to field another 10 Division I teams. We know that. And schools, you go through this day in, day out in the recruiting world. But I still feel that you can have a league that wants to overspend. That's totally fine. And nobody should take too much offense to that. But you also have plenty of other programs that spend adequately. Or even better than adequately, if that makes sense.
You still have to do what you do.
Right.
You can't change who you are. Merrimack did what they did off of having good leadership. They brought in captains in the transfer portal from other places. They retained their fifth-year guys. They lost a junior today, I saw, but I don't know if that was a significant. I didn't recognize the name, but you still have to be who you are. You can't change how you play or how you act or what you do just because somebody else is spending more money. You are where you are, and you want to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And go out and get your own, get what fits you. And, I think that's the biggest thing is you can't change who you are unless you have a full-blown overhaul and you want to change your philosophy and do this. But that's not a one-year process. That's a long process. That's a rebuild. So right now, be who you are. And let them go spend their money. Let them beat each other up and hope that a couple teams take them non-conference. And then it gets their league pairwise down. And then they only get 3 to 4 teams in this league. We have this on cycles.
Listen, what year, this is year number 10 for the Big Ten, I believe, right? We have had this league around for a decade. It's not like last night all the teams started spending an extra $10 million. This has been going on. They've been spending more than the average team for quite some time. They still haven't won a national championship. So I think we can pump the tires. I get it.
Pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes. Sorry, pump the tires.
We've been pumping the tires. Now let's pump the brakes.
That's Roberto Luongo. I'm sorry. Bad reference there. No, I mean, you pump the brakes a little bit because I think there still is parity in hockey. I mean, the NCHC is not here this year. First time that they haven't had a team in the Frozen Four since the league came around. They've won 6 national championships as a league. I don't worry about the NCHC. But, one of the coaches that was talking a little bit last night and had some concern was an NCHC coach. I get it. You don't want to see money become the deciding factor in hockey, but I still say that money is still not the deciding factor, no matter how you slice it.
Well, the Big Ten also was pretty high in pairwise within the conference. Penn State had a losing record in conference, but they were perfect out of conference. And just that those 12 out-of-conference wins for them, it was enough to give the Big Ten probably was enough to give them the extra teams they got in.
730 winning percentage out of conference. I haven't gone back and done this research, but I'm going to say that is one of the top 10 single conference, out of conference winning percentages of the last decade. That's phenomenal. I mean, your next closest is the NCHC at 601 and Hockey East at 591. 625 is usually what you consider a pretty good conference. Maybe you get to 650. 730 is a massive difference, and that is what made that conference stand out when it came to the NCAA selection process.
You know what? We keep pounding this through here. I want to see them win. You said it. They haven't won yet. Everybody's been afraid of this since they came back. And Penn State had to get rolling a little bit because they came in a new program. They were the bottom. They moved to the top. They were picked to the bottom. They moved. Like you said, pump the brakes a little bit. You win a national championship, it's going to scare some more people. But I think this is something that needs to be talked about. But I think it's overkill right now in this whole little area, because if we're in Boston where everybody's spread out, we're in this little corner right by the arena. Everybody's staying down there. It became the buzz yesterday, and it's still going to keep today. And if they both win, it's going to keep. This is going to be the narrative of the weekend. If they both lose, okay, it's over. And people start talking about these other leagues that are still in the pile. And if one wins, I mean, then it's still going to kind of be around. There's so much more stuff going on, and Mike Snee's going to get there in 5 minutes with Major Junior. We talked about with Jason. We talked about a lot of different things, and I'm usually a pretty positive person. I don't think that this is really going to affect the Atlantic Hockey, the ECAC. They're going to still do what they do. You know, I'm going to play a Big Ten team or two, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, Arizona State's got the biggest travel budget and the best arena, and they went out and got all the transfer portal kids. People want to go down there, and what happened to them? I mean, and Greg Powers is a good coach, good recruiter. I mean, it's just, once again, you said it, pump the brakes a little bit. We've been pumping the tires of it. I think there's other storylines that need to take over.
Well, with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back.
I didn't mean to disappoint you there. You were like, "Oh," you're like, "Oh." Okay, we're going to take a break.
Okay, yeah. No, you basically said we need to be quiet.
I jumped off on my soapbox a little bit there.
Well, we'll take a break, and we'll come back with our first guest, and that's the Executive Director of College Hockey Inc., Mike Snee. You're listening to USCHO Frozen Four Live from Harpoon Harry's in Tampa.
Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 90% rate. Joe Pavelski.
Backhand scores! Wow, what a goal!
Johnny Gaudreau. And Torrey Krug were stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you are a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey. Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow @collegehockey.
Champions of the college hockey world!
Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 90% rate. Dylan Larkin.
Backhand scores! Wow, what a goal!
Kevin Shattenkirk.
Welcome back to USCHO Frozen Four live from Harpoon Harry's Crab House in Tampa, just a short walk from Amalie Arena. I'm Ed Trefzger with Jim Connelly and Derek Schooley. And Jim, we have our first guest of the afternoon.
We talked to another person from College Hockey Inc. yesterday, Jason Hadjdu, but now we get to talk with the executive director, Mike Snee. Always great to see you at these Frozen Fours. Another active year, another really good year for college hockey in terms of what it translated to after their college careers over. Another fantastic showing inside the NHL. Almost maybe more than a third of the league this year.
Yeah, about a third. It's a reoccurring theme, isn't it? Every year. Yeah, if it's a stock, you'd buy it. So it keeps getting better every year.
It does. We've talked a lot in the first day and a little bit more about still a changing landscape in college hockey. You know, obviously name, image, likeness is becoming something that's talked about more. The transfer portal is talked about more. You sell the game, really, and you sell it to players before they even get into the game. How has everything? How has that changed? How is the changing game changing your day-to-day job?
Oh, I thought we only had a 20-minute segment here.
View from 5,000 feet.
Yeah, 5,000. I'm actually going to go up to 30,000 feet, if you don't mind. I would say, first off, it should be noted, that's a college athletics subject, or however you want, issue if you think it's an issue, or opportunity if you think it's that, not just college hockey. So it really is. It's there, and then so we'll make the best of it. And I think college hockey has always, done that, made the best of the situations. I think it's still too early to tell how it's going to end up looking. The effects of the transfer portal, the effects of name, image, and likeness. But in the end, it's an opportunity to. It doesn't change the core of what college hockey is, which is a fabulous opportunity to be a student athlete, to reach your full potential as a hockey player, and become, I think, transition from being a boy to a man when you do the process. And as you started off here, the story of college hockey is as good this year as it's ever been. And I'm going to bet on it's going to be even better when we're meeting again next year in St. Paul at the Frozen Four.
You've got a lot of big issues coming. What do you think the biggest issue right now in college hockey? You brought a whole bunch up there. Jason brought up, we talked to Jason about Major Junior. We talked about the name, image, and likeness transfer portal. What do you think the one biggest issue right now that you hear from kids, parents are out there?
It's a good question. I don't know if there's like one overriding one, but there are definitely issues, whether it's college hockey or just the sport of hockey, in general. I think the expense. I'd say this. I think our sport, and since college hockey is part of our sport, the expense to play the game, the what's required to play the game, some places more than others, and I think you're starting to see that reflected in the number of young kids playing hockey. And, we're a reflection of what happened 15 years ago, right? Okay? None of these guys that we're going to watch today started playing hockey last year. They started playing hockey 15 years ago, okay? So I mean, that might not be the answer you're looking for, but I think our sport in general, we just need to make sure that as wonderful things are happening within the sport, and then specifically within college hockey, that the game doesn't become too pricing out families or not appealing enough to families to say, I want to get my kids involved in this. And I say kids specifically because I read something that was pretty interesting. How many hockey families are 1 or 2 kid families? And it was noting that families with 3 or more kids are much less likely to get their kids involved in hockey because of this, whether it's all fact, all perception, or a little of both, what's perceived to be required to have your kid playing hockey. So probably you were looking for a fastball, I gave you a curveball, but I would say that's what I'm most concerned about.
Well, that being said, I got 3 that play hockey. That's why I do that sort of part-time jobs.
That's right. By the way, it is an honor to be here. When you're kind of like the Rick Tocchet of college hockey, you're leaving this cush a media job to head back to coaching. So it's a privilege to be here with you.
We'll see. We got some negotiations going on.
All right. You're going to try to moonlight next year? Is that what you're saying?
Who knows? We'll see. We'll see how things are going. We're talking practice schedules to thing like that.
We're not going to be able to match his salary of Robert Morris. We know that. Just as no network could get.
All right. I like that you're negotiating here on the airwaves.
You know, I may be like Tom Brady since we're in Tampa. I may announce my retirement, and then who knows when we come back, do both.
Very similar looks, too.
Yeah.
Hey, schools just kind of touched on it a little bit, but the major, junior, I guess we've heard that issue talked about, and I know that you do a lot of education in Canada with so many athletes up there that kind of informing them how to keep your eligibility, all of the stuff that goes in it. We hear that maybe that gets looked at again. Really, it's the only sport that you basically ban a player from college hockey because they played in major junior. But I guess there's pluses and minuses to both sides of that equation. How much have you heard about that, and how much is it going to be a topic in this offseason?
Well, I hear about it, I think, in the same places that probably Derek hears about it, down in the meeting, the April meetings every year that get together and just those types of discussions. Yeah, every year. There's a lot of topics that kind of come up every year at Naples, and that's certainly one of the overriding ones. Our approach, we're really here to talk about College Hockey Inc. is here to talk about college hockey, and however it ends up looking, if every 18-year-old is eligible for it, or some 18-year-olds are eligible for it, what college hockey is all about still remains. Now, quite honestly, if you just said to me, should that 17-year-old player is on the third line at whatever CHL team is, he looks more amateurish than he looks professional, right? Even though he's considered professional. So I don't think you can debate that. It's just a matter of, is he going to eventually have eligibility, have partial eligibility, or is it just going to continue in the same way that it is? It's a topic where there's always kind of you can say something and I can counter it. Whatever you say, it can be countered, Right. But I think the overriding thing is that hockey, for let's say 16 to 24-year-olds, has looked this way for so long, right, wrong, little of both, whatever, that it's just kind of evolved that way. And if that were to happen, man, there would be a lot of consequences that come to that. Some good, some maybe not good, a lot unknown. So if it is going to be a topic again, Derek, this year at Naples, and you'd probably know more about that than I do, but it needs to, I'd say you have to measure like 17 times before you cut once kind of thing. So
I'm at that point, though, and I mean, we can make a laundry list of stuff that we've talked about every year, and Joe Bertagna hit on a little bit yesterday, of just stuff that every year seems to come up. And it just keeps going and never... You talk about it. That's kind of major junior, and is one of the reasons why College Hockey Inc. is around.
It is the reason why we started.
Right.
I mean, it's the only reason why we
100%,
started.
But you have all these little things that you just keep talking about year after year. Recruiting calendars, major junior, this, and this. And it seems like you go around in circles and you never get a final answer. And I would hope that sooner or later, their recruiting calendars, we keep giving them proposals. They never change anything. Major junior, you half say yes, half say no. You never make a decision. Sooner or later, you got to stop talking about it and figure this out.
Well, and I do think on the major junior one, so I've been with College Hockey Inc. now 10 years.
Half shields were one of them for a while, too.
Yeah, half shields were. I remember when that was a big deal. I mean, but I do feel like this is not scientific, but I think there are more coaches interested now than there were 10 years ago. If that, I mean, you might know that more, Derek, but just in coaches that I speak with, doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But what I would say it's just the confidence people involved in college hockey have in college hockey right now. We're not going to lose a recruit to anybody. I mean, you point any of these schools and look at we're opening 2 facilities every year. We're adding schools every year. That you can't win an argument that there's a better place to be if you're serious about reaching your full potential as a hockey player when you're, depending on the player you are, 18, 19, 20, 21, than being a college hockey athlete. Okay, and I'll say this over: we do not debate that in football. We do not debate that in basketball. Okay, the Boston Celtics GM is not scouting some guard at Duke or Kansas right now and falling in love with him, but then scratching his head going, but he only played 38 games this year. That never, ever, ever comes up. Okay, nobody when they were thinking of drafting Tom Brady or named a football player, nobody lost sleep over the fact that he only played 11 games last year. Okay, nobody questioned how can that basketball player at Kentucky juggle school. Okay, it's only a hockey issue, and if you really think about it, it's just a. I feel like we're getting past that issue, and people realize that being in an NCAA environment, when you see the facilities, how much time you're going to be on the ice, how much time is dedicated to practice, how you can do weightlifting within the season because of the game schedule, how every game is an A-plus game because it's two teams that are sick of practicing all week and they're ready to go. You don't have one team on the fifth game of a 5-game bus trip, another team sitting there waiting for them. You know, it's so wonderful, and I really do think that whether it was old school NHL GMs or just somebody who just couldn't buy into the fact that college hockey was wonderful for you. Now it's just a matter of making sure that these young men are doing what they need to do from an amateur standpoint, from an academic standpoint, and so on, so they can take advantage of what Robert Morris or any of the other now 63 schools next year have to offer.
What are we going to have again? It's been such fluctuating. How many are we going to have now?
Next year? So next year with you guys coming back on board in Augustana, joining us, we'll be at 63.
Stonehill in that?
Oh, yes, they are. Yep, Stonehill's in there. The Alaskas are in there. Lindenwood's in there. Lindenwood had a great season, you know. So we're growing. When I started, we were at 59, so it's exciting that, and also some schools that we're talking to that you guys have actually covered that hopefully are closer than further away from announcing that they're going to add as well, and then a few schools that I can't share exactly who they are, but we're working with the NHL on having them hopefully eventually add.
10 years you've been?
Well, hopefully we got two maybe coming within.
Is this your 10th year?
This is my 10th year.
Yeah.
Yep. 10
Yeah, you mentioned what I wanted to get to next. Is if there were some other programs and teams along the way, because we've heard, schools be interested. COVID kind of set some things back for some people, so there is some serious interest from a number of schools. You're saying
there are, yeah. So, well, you've reported on two of them. And since they're so public, I don't want to speak on their behalf. But Binghamton and Utica, okay, are both legit and serious, and then we're just in the finishing processes working with the NHL and their consultants on 3 different studies. Those 3 schools specifically want to have it be confidential for now, but all 3 are very legitimate schools, and they see the value. I think that any time these schools add, whether it's a big Power 5 school like Arizona State, and how well that went. A decade ago, right after I started, Penn State adding hockey, how well that's gone. Also schools like Lindenwood, now Augustana next year. So, very different profiles, but for both of them, very successful.
You mentioned the Power 5 and the smaller schools. There needs to continue to be a place for all of those. And it's been a little bit of a concern, kind of the scuttlebutt and buzz around this. Do you see a danger there, or do you see this being a place for schools of all sizes?
Oh, I still absolutely see it for schools of all sizes. It's just, I think we've got two Power 5 schools in this one. It wasn't long ago, I think it was 2018, there was a Frozen Four that had 3 Big Ten schools, arguably 3 of the 10 biggest brands in college athletics, but the other school won that tournament, and that was a Division II athletics department school that won that tournament. The past 10 years have been the most parity in the history of college hockey in terms of schools winning their first ever national championship, whether it was UMass, Providence, Duluth. Duluth won 3. They won their first in 11. They've won 3 since. Yale won their first. Union won their first. If you look at the history of it, the 30 years prior to, I believe it was Duluth in 2011, you have to go all the way back to Maine. 93. You have to go all the way back to Maine to find a school that hadn't. So every school from 94 to 11 was winning a multiple championship. Okay, so really that was the era when it was more concentrated in a handful of schools. The past decade has probably been the biggest decade of a variety of schools having success, and it not always being those powerful schools. So I understand the concern with the transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, and the resource gap getting any bigger or getting even bigger. But I also still feel that the schools that we referenced, there's absolutely still a place for them and a place for them to achieve the highest success.
I got a question that was from the internet. They tweeted at me and said, you asked Mike Snee this, is he going to play hockey when he goes to St. Louis this summer? And will he be my dad's defense partner again?
All right. Well, so if you guys don't know, Mr. Schooley's a rugged, stay-at-home defenseman. a lot of chipping it high off the glass.
Very slow, very rugged.
He needs a bit of a Lane Hudson type to partner with to allow his strengths to flourish. So I'll be the puck moving rear guard pair of Mr. Schooley later on this summer. Yeah.
Sounds like it came from Derek in Pittsburgh. That question.
No, I was Rick in St. Louis.
Rick in St. Louis. That makes sense.
Since we're on that subject, I can't wait till we start talking about the 1987 World Series, Derek.
Tampa, been a great host again. We haven't even seen it in action, but just being in the city for 2 days.
Oh, the energy.
It just feels there's something different about this city.
It is.
I know we have Jeff Schulman on next. We'll probably be talking about the next bid process, but some other cities you'd like to see it exposed to, National Hockey League cities. Obviously, we know Boston, St. Paul, everybody loves those.
Yep.
We're going to go to St. Louis. We're going to go to Vegas in the next few years, but not maybe this is Mike Snee, not College Hockey Inc., but cities you'd like to see it go to that we may
I think it's when you have a place where it's all contained in walking distance, the arena, the hotels, the entertainment, restaurants and bars and so on, and that's so that's Tampa. Plus also Tampa has weather, right? and you can just feel here, this is a hockey town. This is the Lightning and what the NHL has done here, and now with the third Frozen Four to be here. I think a similar feel to Tampa is Nashville, where everything is right there, and that's a hockey town as well. And I would love to see Nashville host a Frozen Four.
I think we all would. Now we just have to get them to bid, right?
Yeah. Another place too, I'd love to see Toronto host the Frozen
So go
Four.
Across the border.
Yeah.
You'd be okay with that?
And it's it's a great city. Everything's right there. Hockey Hall of Fame. It'd be a wonderful trip for college hockey fans. I haven't given that much thought. I think I'd be absolutely okay with it. Yeah, I think it would be a really cool spot to have it.
Nothing worse to market your game across that border too.
Yeah.
Well, Mike Snee, we always enjoy catching up with you here. Thanks for everything you do for college hockey.
Yeah, thank you.
It certainly it has kept this game moving in a very positive direction in the last.
Can I throw one thing in there?
Go right there.
I had a New Year's resolution when we talk about college hockey. We talk so much about the hockey piece, but these guys graduated at a 92% rate.
It's not bad.
It's the number one graduation rate of all men's NCAA Division I athletics this past year. Women graduated at a 98% rate. So these guys we're going to watch tonight, they are right on student athletes. They're doing it on the ice and they're doing it in the classroom. So it doesn't get talked about as much as it should, but wanted to make sure people know that. And
those are just as good a stats as the NHL playing stats. So, Mike, we appreciate your time. Enjoy the weekend in Tampa.
Thank you. You as well. Hockey. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. We'll be back with more of USCHO Frozen Four live in just a few moments.
Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 90% rate. Dylan Larkin.
Backhand scores! Wow, what a goal!
Kevin Shattenkirk. And James Van Riemsdyk were stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you are a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey. Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow @collegehockey.
Champions of the college hockey world!